Yeah, let's go ahead and just dive in. Again, Shaman Mater brings fantastic size, 6'5", 248 pounds. Was a redshirt sophomore this past year, so he's got a couple more years if he wants, and he really has that NFL type body that you want to see at the tight end position. And I think when you look and see how he was utilized, this is what I'm most interested in. 210 snaps in line, 34 snaps in the backfield, kind of like as that fullback, H-back, 170 snaps in the slot, and then 19 snaps out wide. So I'd imagine that a lot of those plays, or a good chunk of those plays, are where he's motioning out from in line, uh, you know, before the snap, to then get the defense to adjust, change their coverage, and hopefully the offense will exploit a favorable matchup that they find. And before I get into some of these concepts that I feel like Pat Shurmur might look to use Metayer in, just wanting to go over his receiving stats a little bit as well. Oh, this is the wrong page. That's receiving depth. Again, this past year, 30 targets, 23 receptions, 258 yards, 5 touchdowns. For reference, I think Michael Harrison had maybe somewhere between 40 and 50 targets, I think. But this guy is definitely a big red zone threat. And I mean, he can run not only those shorter, more compact, routes for in the red zone or whatever, but this guy, also has enough speed to really stretch the field, and can run some of those routes that get downfield, stretch the defense, all of that. And I think like I attached some different videos in the comments or in the description of my video, and one of those is a highlight play from Metayer with a big time touchdown catch against BYU. This was probably his most impressive game this year, or I guess against West Virginia. He had 2 touchdowns in both of these games, and so it's nice to see that he's had some production there already in the Big 12. But a big time body, again, mainly will either line up in line or in the slot, but also spent some time, lining up out wide, which I think is really interesting. Now, if you look at this is Pro Football Focus's grade for running routes, you'll see, hey, still could learn more or develop more in his route running, and I think that will. I think he'll continue to improve as time goes on, as he works with these coaches. Brett Bartolone is definitely going to help him with that. Pat Shurmur, when his offenses have been very successful, they've always had a big time tight end that is not only able to run block, but also be a big time threat in the passing game as well. And I think Metayer, even though he's a little bit raw, I guess, in terms of route running and even his run blocking, I think still has a lot of room for improvement. I think he has the physical tools and potential there to develop. And so, I'm very excited to see him in this offense. Now, you might wonder, hey, how might we use somebody like Chamon Metayer in this Pat Shurmur offense? And going back to my video on Sunday, I was talking about, hey, Pat Shurmur likes to use a lot of these shallow crossers. He likes to use a lot of these rub routes, right? When it's talked about play callers or offensive coordinators, they're able to scheme guys open. Like, this stuff doesn't really happen on accident. It's not just because you have the faster or the quickest guys on the field compared to the defense. Sometimes that's definitely part of it, but most of the time it's because you're drawing up plays in which you're causing confusion with the defense mid-play on whether they need to communicate on whether they need to hand off a certain guy to another defender or stick with them. And a lot of these are split-second decisions, right? Nonverbal communication. think that's why we saw a lot of issues with our defense this past year is, when you don't have a lot of time together, you're not really able to communicate most effectively in those split second situations. And I think Pat Shurmur can use Shaman in a way that's going to help scheme open the rest of our receivers, and sometimes get the ball to him as well. But I wanted to bring up a few different examples here. I don't have any live video, but I do have some stills to take y'all through, and I think that some of this would be fun. I'll show this here, and I did link this article on LSU defending these rub routes or pick plays in the description of my video, which I thought was really interesting. But I actually have here we go. This probably looks better. So here's kind of a general idea of kind of what this play could look like. Obviously, Auburn, it looks like they're using some wide receivers. This can be, of course, interchangeable. You'll see Pat Shurmur use these concepts with wide receivers or like a wide receiver and a tight end. But you see kind of the idea here is that you have, whether you're identifying, I think in this case, this was man coverage, but you have this route that's being ran up the field while he's initially being guarded by this boundary corner right here. But it's run in kind of an angle in which it gets in front of this slot corner, and it causes confusion between these LSU cornerbacks, and it allows this slot receiver to go around outside and get open. And it also helps out the fact that this Auburn wide receiver is a very big body. He's able to kind of run into this slot corner. The boundary corner does not, they don't switch off their man. And so it allows this guy to run open. And you'll see Shaman, I think, used in this way a lot, whether that's closer to the line of scrimmage or if they bring him out wide or in like a wide slot in some circumstances where his job is going to be, running one of these rub routes or pick plays in order to kind of create contact and chaos between the defenders and himself that will then allow a wide receiver to get open. So you can kind of see like how this played out or not. Let me see here. Whoops. Sorry, I can't zoom in any more than this, but you can see how that played out really well. Both of these LSU defenders stuck with the outside wide receiver. A lot of nice contact there, but it's an easy throw. And I also attached another video in which it came from the New York Giants a few years ago when Pat Shurmur was hired, but they were going over how Pat Shurmur used Kyle Rudolph, big time tight end for the Minnesota Vikings, in these ways a lot to kind of scheme open wide receivers. And so, yeah, this was a type of body that we were really missing last year with our offense. And I think Shaman, look for him to be used in this way as well to help our receiving core, get some really favorable matchups here. This was another really interesting play. Another example of a pick play. Utilizing, again, it's kind of like the opposite side of the field where this outside wide receiver, again, is running this angle route. And would you call this a wheel route? I'm still learning all this, guys. But you see the slot wide receiver is able to kind of get outside and then get downfield. And again, LSU has a hard time handing this thing off. You can see the outside wide receiver does a great job of just creating chaos and contact. And sometimes that's all you need is just a little bump. And this Arkansas wide receiver just has a ton of space. See? And he's really able to get open. These guys are running into each other. And it was all set up by a route that was targeted and run really well here by number 8. So you can kind of see like how that played out. Getting in for the touchdown. Is that Treylon Burks? I think that is. But I'll let this run one more time. But I love it when stuff's run like that. It's beautiful. And this is what good offensive play callers they're able to do. Now, in this article, they talk about like how to stop it. You see how there's some different. You see some crossers happen from coming from this side of the field, and a way to defend this, of course, is you want to be reading it very quickly. Oh, comes out of the backfield, but you see how this linebacker is able to avoid the contact by the receiver running that pick play. And then you see the safety identify what's going on very quickly, or the boundary corner, and he's able to come up and make the play. So that's what's important about taking your deep shots, is that it spreads the defense out. Guys can't, or defenses can't play this stuff so close. And it's also why, having an offensive line that can block is definitely helpful, because when they can't block, then you can't throw downfield, and it's easy to play all this stuff very close and short. But I think that was just about it on that play, which I thought was really cool. There are a couple more that I wanted to show y'all as an example here really quick, if I can find this. So, yeah, here's another example of this, where the Steelers are using this kind of concept to get Deontay Johnson open. I'm not sure who this wide receiver is over here. Maybe it's Washington. I'm not totally sure. But anyways, same concept where you have Deontay Johnson on the outside running this little slant. And then you have the inside wide receiver, the slot wide receiver, that is kind of running this out or seam. I'm not really sure, but anyways, it's done with the intention of being a pick play, to where number 20 is not able to follow Deontay Johnson because of this big body right here, and it's able to get him open. Again, man coverage. You would want to ideally like hand this off, but I mean, that's a lot easier said than done when these are literally split second decisions, right? So again, you could see a body like Shaman Mater being used to like motion out to the slot to then run some of these routes, to then get a guy like Will Shepherd on a slant route open, a guy like Travis Hunter. Okay. Of course, our slot guys. Now, LeJante Wester being a big 6-foot slot guy. This can just be run for anybody. Jimmy Horn, Omari Miller, Baby T.O., all those guys. But I think that this is a concept that you'll see executed better, because as much as I love Mikey Harrison, not the most physical guy, not the biggest tight end, right? This is a guy with an NFL body that can also get down the field like an NFL tight end. Still has more to develop in that area, but again, he has the physical ability to do it. And this is really going to help us, scheme guys open more. And it doesn't necessarily require the offensive line to block for a long time, which is great. All we need is just a couple seconds or so to have the primary receiver get open. So I thought that this was another really good example of this. And I think I had one more here that I can share. Again, thanks for sticking with me, y'all, and then I'll get to your thoughts. I guess this is the last one. And this is just a very simple concept that I saw in like Google Images, just to provide like a different reference for you guys. I guess this is hey, they're running these rub routes in youth football, right? This was very similar to the route that we saw run by Arkansas against LSU that we were just looking at, where Treylon Burks was able to get outside. But it's something very similar to this, where you see this outside wide receiver, running this more inside route to move the boundary corner, of course, over to the left. And then this guy, the slot corner who's following the slot wide receiver, runs into the chaos that's going over here. And then you see the slot wide receiver is schemed open really well. Now, if the free safety, again, he identifies this and comes over to stop this wheel route or whatever, what's great is that if you have your wide receiver on the left side of the formation beat their guy, then you got a guy wide open over the top. So, be on the lookout for the use of Metayer with this. I think that this is going to be really helpful in getting everybody open. So, hopefully this is helpful. You're going to see, I think, more tight end usage with, Pat Shurmur. I think that's one of the big things. Big differences that we'll see this year is using Metayer in both run and pass situations. In pass situations in which he is the primary target, which, is another video, I guess. But also being used in a sense is like as a basketball player, as a forward or a center to set these picks to let your guards and wings get open. Kind of look at it like that. So, anyways, I guess I'll get to some of your comments here. Hopefully you guys found that somewhat helpful. And again, I'm not a film junkie. I'm not a film pro. You should not have me coaching, your Pop Warner football teams. But, hopefully, like myself, you guys learned something.